Hey, little squirrel. You enjoying my garden there, buddy? There he is. Come on, little guy. What are you doing? What are you doing, squirrely? There ain't no nuts in that ground, I promise you. All right, right here on Grow the Earth this morning, we're going to go over raised beds. We're going to go over how they're constructed, what you can make them out of, different mistakes that I've made, and how we're going to correct them, or how I have corrected them. Starting off here, I'm going to say Texas weather is kind of crazy right now. You remember my last video, I was in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. This morning it's 40 degrees. Go figure. So before I get started here, I want to say thank you to all the people who have found it a good thing to subscribe to my channel, who have decided to spend their time and their energy to watch me, of all people. And, I hope I can live up to your subscription. I hope that I can help you guys learn and help you guys grow, and to continue to give you guys good content to earn your subscription. So what I'm going to do is we're going to walk around what the garden looks like right now. It's unfortunately it's pretty bare. There's not a whole lot growing right now. Explain to you why I do this, why I grow in these raised beds, and the different forms and methods that people use that will look very similar, but they're actually different. Just give you a couple tips and ideas as to what you can do to get the most out of your raised beds. All right, guys, so this is the raised beds that we just walk you right down the line here and show you. Yeah, don't look too hard. I need to take care of these this grass in between the beds here. It's about time to do all that, because we're going to be planting actually on Sunday. We're going to be doing a lot of planting, and you guys are going to come along with me for that too. But as I'm walking down this, you can tell that not all of these beds are straight. And we'll get to that in a moment. But what I have here is these raised beds are made out of pressure treated wood. And I know a lot of people are going to go right off the bat, oh, you put poison that you're, containing all this good garden soil with is poison. There's poison in it. Well, I'm here to tell you, through all the research that I've done and different things that I've read, that pressure treated wood is not going to leach into your soil. It doesn't have arsenic in it. If you bought a piece of treated wood since 2004, it's been treated with a solution called copper azole. And copper azole is nothing more than a fungicide. Now, is this saying that I want to grow all my vegetables right up against that wood? No. Scientists don't always get everything right the first time. But I do trust the understanding of what I've read enough to know that me building my raised beds out of pressure treated wood is not going to be a bad thing. It's not going to be horrible. It's not going to pick up chemicals with my plants. It's going to kill me or anything else. It's not going to poison me. But, still be cautious. There are other things that you can use that will not be pressure treated. Most of your cedars are very, very rot resistant. Redwoods, teak. Of course, they are premium woods and you're going to pay for them. So keep that in mind. If you're like me and you've got 10 raised beds, you got a couple of hundred board feet of wood, buying teak or redwood or, cedar is probably going to cost you a ton, and a pressure treated wood or even an untreated pine would be your best course of action for that. Because living here along the Texas Gulf Coast, our ground is gumbo. And It's a mixture of clay and soil and a bunch of other things, and it is very nutrient dense, but it is also horrible to grow plants in because it is either really, really wet or it is really, really dry. There is no in between. And it just, it's for any plant that has roots that like to breathe, it's not your soil. Not only that, to make a gumbo type soil into a good usable garden soil, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, because you have to take a mass amount of compost and so forth and turn it into the soil in order to break up that gumbo enough. You will end up with a very good product at the end, but it's going to take you a year or two worth of working that soil in to get it to a good growable consistency, to where it doesn't dry out to a crisp in the summer heat. If you're not along the Gulf Coast, you don't understand, but during the summertime when it gets 100 degrees, you will actually see cracks in the ground from the fact of that gumbo baking the soil so much that it has no moisture in it anymore. And then you can take a shovel and dig down 6 inches and it'll be just sopping wet. So, not the best thing for a garden. Over a little bit of construction. Like I said, this is treated wood. These are roughly 3 foot wide by 20 foot long by 10 inches deep. Now, I made a mistake whenever I built these in the fact that I did not fortify the joints. And what I'm talking about is right here, you can see that there is 2 10-foot boards that are spliced together. Now, originally I took some landscape stakes and shored up where those joints were, but that lasted not very long, simply because the landscape stakes were not treated. So when you shove those into especially a gumbo that stays very wet all the time, they rot off. So inside of a year or two, those things have rotted off and they were not holding anymore. And then what you end up with is stuff like this, to where it just bows out right at that joint. So my repair for this has been to take another piece of scrap wood that I have, dig out all along here, push everything over, and then screw that board inside, screw from the outside in to pull that over to where that board is now acting as a support at that joint. And as you can see, that one used to look like that one, and now it's straight. So, believe me, I've got some more work ahead of me, but we have a solution for it. As far as raised beds go, there are a couple of different, I guess you could say, varieties. One is like what I have here, and that is to where basically you construct a box right on top of the ground and fill it with soil and go away. It's open to the ground. That way you can get in, your worms and the bacterias and things like that that really help your soil can work their way up through the soil that you just put in. You have others that will construct this same thing, but they will then line with plastic. You have others that will actually fully enclose the bottom of these. And even more is where they'll take basically what I've got here on the ground, enclose the bottom, and they lift it up to where it's about waist high. And usually you'll see this for mostly, I shouldn't say mostly, but your older people will do this so that they don't have to bend over. I would love to make a garden like that because it would be so much easier to deal with that, but it's also a lot more time and materials and you have to really watch your sizes because they get extremely heavy very fast, and it can be dangerous to some extent, especially here along the Gulf Coast because we have hurricanes. Again, these are made out of treated pine. I've seen some people that have made these out of brick. I've even seen some people who have poured them out of concrete. And even others, I saw one guy who made his out of, I was very intrigued by it actually because he used guardrail. You know, the guardrail you see along the side of the highways to protect you from going into ditches and so forth. Well, that's what he used for his raised beds. And it seemed to, I would think that it worked quite well. It looked really good. But there again, you have others that are, they say the galvanized steel is not good for your ground either. So, but why do I grow in raised beds? Well, like I said, I explained the soil that we have here and the amount of effort it would take to get the native soil that I have to a plantable level. Whereas with a raised bed, I can control exactly what goes in there. I know the soil density, I know how it's going to feel, I know the nutrients that are in it because I put it there. Now on the other hand, what you have is whenever you're sourcing your soils, if you're not sourcing from reliable people, you can get soil-borne microbes and things like that from the soil that you put in because they're not using clean soil or they're using certain products that are not helpful. You know, you'll have pre-emergence and things like that because nobody wants to get compost with weeds in it, so they'll spray pre-emergent on their compost to keep it from picking up weeds. So with construction of these, a couple of things to keep in mind. You definitely want to use a screw. Do not nail these things together. They will come apart just from the weight of the soil. Second thing is the screws. You need to use a screw that is rated for outdoors. There's going to be nothing worse than you putting a screw in there that is not going to last as long as the wood. You know, a galvanized screw, a deck screw. You know, if you want to go ultimate, you can even go like marine side and get like the stainless steel screws that they use in like boats and stuff. You want to make sure that if you spend all the money and the time and the effort to build these things, you don't want your screws to fall apart, and you know then you've got a ruined raised bed that you've got to come back and repair. There's 100 different ways you can construct these things. You know, I just wanted to talk about some of the misconceptions that I've heard as far as materials and so forth. For me personally, whenever you're building your raised beds, I say to leave the bottoms open because it allows the worms and beneficial bacteria and so forth from the actual ground underneath to come up into that raised bed. And if you have good soil with good compost and so forth, the worms are going to come in there, and then you have your worm castings that they leave behind that are very, very beneficial for your garden. For a good, healthy soil has bacteria in it. You have bacteria that work with your plants. You have bacteria that work to break down stuff so that your plants can have nutrients. You have different bacteria that perform different functions in your garden. So the more diverse and the more you can have of different things that perform different functions, the better your soil is going to be. If you get those things right, they will almost take care of themselves, and you don't have to interject with, I see a lot of people talking about putting sulfur to raise the pH levels, and putting all kinds of different things down in order to modify the soil. Well, if you're using good compost and you've got all the bacteria and all the things that are supposed to be in regular soil, it will take care of itself. You don't have to modify it. I think that's what a lot of people forget. Nature has been growing fruits and vegetables and trees and so forth for thousands and thousands of years before we try to put it into a raised bed. If we try and emulate nature, then we don't have to interact with it as much. It's whenever we try and control too much to where we can really screw things up. We here at Grow the Earth have teamed up with a couple of different companies. I know some of you guys who have watched this part are probably tired of hearing me talk about these companies, but I want to help and I want to make sure that you guys have access to whatever it is you need. So again, the first link is mostly seeds. The second link is mostly greenhouse supplies and so forth. Click on them if you want to. It doesn't hurt or help me in either way. I will get a small commission from those things if you do buy something from those sites. But if you don't, you're still part of the family. So, guys, as always, pray over your family, pray over your garden. Thank God for all the things that He's given you in your life and all the things that are helpful to you, and have a great day.